Hey everybody, so I am coming on here today in honor of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Usually I do this on Instagram, but a few people reached out to me and were like, hey LaQuinta, we're not on Instagram, how can we see your videos? And I wasn't quite sure how to convert them over. So this time I figured I'll give it a try and I'll come on Facebook and see how it goes being live on Facebook instead of Instagram, and maybe I'll bounce back and forth between the two platforms until I can figure out how to make this work everywhere. Or maybe I'll just upload them to YouTube and then everyone can watch in YouTube whether you have an account or not. But today I want to talk about something that is very, very important to me, because this month, October, is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And as you know, Her Sacred Place is doing a drive for domestic violence awareness, where we will be donating all types of feminine hygiene products, and probably not just feminine hygiene products, but we'll also be buying like toothbrushes and anything like that to donate to a local women's shelter here in Columbia, South Carolina, in honor of domestic violence. Because as you know, most people who are in a domestic violence situation and they do decide to leave, they usually doesn't have any money to buy the bare necessities that they need to make it on their own. But because this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I also want to talk to you guys in relation to your sacred place, how when people automatically think of domestic violence, they think of physical abuse. But I wanted to come on here and let you guys know that domestic violence isn't just physical abuse. We as women can also be emotionally abused in our relationship, and that is also a form of domestic violence. So in this short video, probably is only going to take about 10 minutes of your time here on this live tonight, I'll be talking about 5 ways that you may potentially be in an emotionally abusive relationship and you don't even realize it, and how that could be contributing to your womb problems or your period problems or your vaginal imbalances, and you don't even realize it. And a lot of women don't realize this. It's as if a man isn't physically putting his hands on us, then he's not harming us. But that's not always the case. Mental abuse or emotional abuse is just as worse, or maybe in some situations, depending on how you look at it, may even be worse than actual physical abuse. So we'll go ahead and dive on in this right now so I can get off of here and try to figure out how to upload this to other platforms. So the first way that you may be experiencing emotional abuse in your relationship, and you may not even know it, is if you're constantly in a relationship. I mean, if your significant other or your partner or your husband or your wife or whoever it is constantly criticizing you. That's number one. They're always very critical of you. It's as if you can't never do nothing right. No matter what you do, there's something wrong. They're very critical. It's always something going on, and they have to criticize each and everything that you do. If you decided to prepare a nice meal for them, the meal isn't good enough. If you decided to wear something nice to make you feel good as a woman, because sometimes we want to step out and we want to look good, they want to criticize you for what you have on. Maybe you don't have the body to wear that or something like that. So I just want you women to be aware that if you're always being criticized in your relationship or your marriage, that is a form of emotional abuse. And we as women tend to take that in, and then we begin to believe it, because if you're constantly hearing something all the time, day in and day out, you will begin to believe what you're hearing. And then you become critical of yourself, and you start to believe that I really like that outfit, but maybe I am too fat for this, or maybe I am too skinny for that, or maybe I do need to lose weight. Instead of just having self-love and loving all over yourself, and just feeling like, I like how I look in this, so I'm confident about how I look in this, and I'm going to exude that confidence when I walk out. So again, one of the most important things to look out for when your guy or your partner is very critical of you all the time and just want to criticize each and everything that you do. The second thing that I want to talk about is anytime that he or she is constantly embarrassing you. And this doesn't even have to be publicly, or it doesn't even have to be embarrassment in a form that you guys may be thinking of when I say embarrassing you. When I say that someone is constantly embarrassing you, it could be embarrassment in a form of public where you're like, oh my God, I can't believe he just said that to me in front of a bunch of people. Or it could be that everyone else around you is embarrassed for you. Like, you don't even realize he just embarrassed you by something he said or something that he did. But it's this constant state of being embarrassed in your relationship. Like, I can't believe he did that. One of the things I can think about when this comes up is dealing with a guy who deals with a bunch of other women. And everybody in the community knows that he deals with a bunch of other women. And everybody everywhere knows that he deals with a bunch of other women. But you may be the main woman, or you may be the one, and he has a lot of other women. That is mad disrespectful and very embarrassing to you for him to be seen constantly with other women or cheating on you with other women or something like that. And you're supposed to be his partner, or you're supposed to be his girlfriend, or you're supposed to be his wife. But it seems like he's just for everyone. A lot of women may look at that as just, oh, he's just cheating, but deep down, that is a form of embarrassment to you as a woman, and also a form of embarrassment to your relationship. And so if a guy is constantly embarrassing you, and again, that's just one or two I just gave off the top of my head when I'm thinking about it. Two things that I just gave where he's just blatantly embarrassing you in person, where you're like, oh my God, did he really just say that? I feel so embarrassed. Or you're just embarrassed to the public and you may or may not even be aware of it, but he's very, very embarrassing to you. The third thing is making you always feel shame. And the majority of the time when this comes up, this is men who usually try to make women feel shame either one of two ways. Men always make us feel shame by talking about our body type, whether that's our body weight or the way our body is shaped or whatever that situation is. They might be like, girl, you know you twist up, why you wearing that? Or he's constantly telling you your body ain't fit for that. You should wear something more flattering, or you should dress differently than that, or you shouldn't wear that. You know, he's making you feel shame about the way that your body type is. That's a form of emotional abuse when that's happening. Another one of the most common things men like to make us feel shame is by talking under your clothes, as my grandmother would say it. I was raised by my grandmother, so I come from an old soul. But talking under your clothes, whenever you talk about a woman's most sacred place, or you talk about, ooh, that was stink, or it wasn't even good, or whatever that is, that makes her feel shame. And a lot of times men will automatically go to that when they feel threatened, or men will automatically go to talking about you under your clothes, or talking about how your sex life is, or whatever that case is, to make you feel shame about yourself. So anytime you find yourself in a relationship with a guy who is constantly making you feel shame about your vaginal health, whether it is something going on with your vaginal health, and it may be related to him while that is going on. We'll talk about that in another video. Or there may not be anything in particular going on with your vaginal health, and he's just using that as a form to shame you. By the way, if you do feel like you have vaginal problems, make sure you stop using whatever products that you are using and go to the website, hersacredplace.com, and buy our feminine hygiene products. They are phthalate, sulfate-free, chemical-free, no dyes or anything. So you know that they are all natural products, and they should have your sacred space very balanced. down there. So again, to go back into that, we're talking about number 3 is shame. So a lot of the times we don't realize it because we just say, oh, that's how he is, or there he goes again, or however that is. But that's a form of emotional abuse, and we shouldn't have to deal with feeling shameful or having shameful feelings with our partner because he is constantly downgrading or down talking our vaginal health, our sexual health, or our body type, or whatever it is that this particular guy is doing to make you feel shame. The 4th thing that I want to bring up is if you may be suffering from an emotional abusive relationship, is blame. Just like shame, it's no matter what you do or what you say, you are never right. You are always blamed for anything that goes wrong in the house. You are always blamed for anything that goes wrong in a relationship. And you are always blamed for anything that goes wrong in his life. It doesn't even have anything to do with you. He could have forgotten to get up on time because he didn't hear his phone go off. And he says, well, you know I have to be to work. Why didn't you wake me up? Excuse me, sir. I was asleep too. You should have heard your phone go off or something like that. You know, he's always blaming you for everything that's happening in a relationship. It's the craziest things. I've heard men blame women for their cheating. And the women tend to stay with them. Like, if you're cheating on me and then you blame me because you're cheating on me, why would I tend to stay with you? If that isn't the utmost form of emotional abuse, I don't know what else is. Someone constantly blaming you for something that they did, or something that they're responsible for doing, or something that was simply out of your control. They may have thought they told you something. Your partner may have thought he told you, well, I asked you to do this for me. And you're like, no, you must have meant to ask me, but you never did actually ask me. And then he starts to blame you where you always forget stuff. You don't never remember anything. Don't you remember what I told you? That's blame. And then we'll self-consciously take in like, well, did I forget? Or maybe he did tell me. Which leads me into my 5th and final form of emotional abuse is through manipulation. He will manipulate you, and this is the most hardest emotional abuse to recognize, because a lot of the times when we are being manipulated, it's hard for us to realize as women that we are being manipulated. So going back into the last thing I said about blame, where he said, well, you don't remember that I told you this, and how could you forget? And he's blaming you for something not happening because he probably never even told it to you at the beginning. Then that means that he's manipulating this situation. But then we start to second guess ourselves as women, and we're like, hold up, maybe he did tell me that, and maybe I did forget. And so we don't even realize that we are being manipulated, and our thoughts and our emotions and our feelings are being manipulated by someone who is just using this as a tactic to get his way, or to cause us even more emotional duress, or cause us even more emotional stress. And so in honor of Domestic Violence Month, I wanted to come on here and talk about that, because every time we talk about domestic violence, we automatically think that it's physical, and that someone is physically beating on someone, and that is the only type of abuse that we can experience. But it is very important to know that we as women may also be experiencing emotional abuse in our relationships, and this may often, in our case as women, be even more detrimental to us than physical abuse, because whenever you are suffering from emotional abuse as a woman, it sits in your womb space, And those feelings just ball up there, and they just sit there, and they just gravitate there. And you may notice why every time your period comes on, you're just in so much pain, and it's just hurting and everything. Or you can't get rid of these fibroids, or you're starting to form fibroids or stuff like that. And you have all kind of uterine imbalances or uterine issues that you never had any problems with until you got with this particular man. Like, he could be he could be the cause of your emotional, your womb imbalance. He could be the cause of why you're feeling like that down there. He could be the cause of why you're smelling like that down there. Your flora and everything about you vaginally and uterine is off balance because your emotions are all off whack because of everything that he's doing to you. So I just wanted to come on here and talk about that because it's important that women recognize not all abuse is physical. There are other types of abuse that's not physical, and that's just as important. So for those who have gotten out of those situations, if this video finds you, but if you have decided, you know, I was with a guy like that. I was with a guy who always blamed me for things. I was with a guy who just never appreciated anything and everything that I did for him or everything that I did for the sake of us. And now that I'm out of that relationship, I can look back on it and say, I'm glad I'm out of that relationship. I am happy for you. I'm happy, and hopefully we can manifest a better person in your life this time around. Or if you have found a better person, leave a comment below and letting me know, hey, LaQuinta, I remember when I was with the guy who did this to me emotionally or made me feel like this emotionally. But now I have passed that, and I'm not in that situation no more. If you feel like you are in this situation right now and this video has touched you, and it may have given you the courage or the information you need to look back and say, 5 out of those 5 things she just named, I go through on a weekly basis, and definitely 1 out of those 5, I'm going to definitely touch on a daily basis. I'm going to be emotionally abused at least 1 of those 5 every day. If that resonates with you and you decide out of that, this may be something that I need to leave. Make sure once you leave that relationship to cleanse yourself of that person. Please, please, please do a vaginal cleanse to release that person from your womb space so that you can get all of those negative emotions and all of those thoughts and everything out of you. And if you need more information on helping to do that or helping to release that from your womb space once you are done with the guy, definitely give me a call or text me at 803-997-0841, or you can email me at hersacredplace@gmail.com, and we can set up a time to talk about it so that we can get you to back into your loving self, as well as cleanse your womb so that those emotions aren't just sitting in there and steeping. They're just sitting in there and cooking, and that you will cleanse yourself. But that's what I wanted to talk about. Thank you guys for watching. I see you in here, China, and then my cousin was on here earlier, but I think he's gone now. I will try to do these lives more often. I usually do them on Instagram, but we'll see how Facebook does for me. If you have any questions, just leave me a comment below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you. Bye.